In to the Political Decode podcast. We got an episode here. Bill Maher goes off. Let's get into it.
Oh, I mean, you can't go a day without thinking about what he's done to this country because he's such a little baby that
You talking about Biden or Trump?
he's thrown 250 years of democracy out the window by not accepting the results of the. I mean, it's so crazy. He's such a sociopath. He's so insane. He just couldn't admit to losing. And we know he lost. He knows he lost. And look how he's fooled everybody. He's convinced all these people that he didn't lose. He's such a sick man. He's so sick. Anyway, no, it hasn't impacted me at all.
Well, let's talk Larry David. Because you're friends of him. Were you friends? Are you friends?
Yeah, of course. I mean, this wasn't, my favorite moment of our friendship. But look, I don't want to get into too much into that, but I think the minute you play the Hitler card, you've lost the argument.
Yes.
And also, I must say, come on, man. Hitler, Nazis, nobody was been harder about and more prescient, I must say, about Donald Trump than me. I don't need to be lectured on who Donald Trump is. Just the fact that I met him in person didn't change that. And the fact that I reported honestly is not a sin either. But to use the Hitler thing, first of all, I just think it's kind of insulting to 6 million dead Jews, that should kind of be in its own place in history. And
sometimes the Democrats can kind of go a little too far with their analogy of things, and it can bite them back. It's like the boy that cries wolf. You can only do that so many times. Then when something really happens, no one's going to listen to you,
I know people can say, well, we're just comparing it in this way. Well, it's an argument you kind of lost just to start it. It's just look, maybe it's not completely logically fair, but Hitler has really kind of got to stay in his own place. He is the goat of evil, and we're just going to have to, I think, leave it like that. So,
All right, guys, so we got to talk about the reaction to Larry David, who is a Hollywood weirdo, writing an essay in which he is basically mocking Bill Maher for having dinner with President Trump, right? Because nowadays, the laughs are so deranged that even if you have dinner with the president, then that means you are capitulating to Trump, right? You are trying to humanize Trump. And what these leftists really don't like about President Trump and Bill Maher having dinner together is the fact that Bill Maher came out of that dinner saying that, President Trump is a pretty relatable guy, right? Like, I can actually sit down and talk to him, and, he's not Hitler, right? He's not evil orange man, right? He's not the devil that the media tries to make him out to be.
I voted for Obama, I voted for Clinton, but the idea that I could talk to them as freely as I felt this conversation was going is emblematic to me of why the Democrats lose the elections. Because they just don't feel that this is like a real person. And I know it's so weird to say that about Donald Trump.
I think what Bill is trying to say is that the Democrats might be out of touch.
Trump, who I've said a jillion times is, a whiny little bitch. I mean, I could go through my greatest hits of insults. But this was about getting past that. And maybe seeing that if we met in person, we don't hate each other as much. And we don't. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to pretend that's a bad thing. No, it's how you.
Yeah, Bill Maher is healing from his Trump derangement. Even though he's still Trump deranged, he's not as Trump deranged as he gets some of these Hollywood weirdos like Larry David. who is extremely Trump deranged, and he thought it'd be a good idea to write this guest essay, an op-ed, in the New York Times, where he basically compares Bill Maher's dinner with Trump to dinner with Hitler, right? As you see the title, Larry David, My Dinner with Adolf. Basically, the whole point of this is to mock Bill Maher for having dinner with Trump, right? And leftists have not realized that playing the Hitler card is a losing card, that this is not a winning game for the left, that it is not okay to continuously compare President Trump to Hitler, right? That it didn't work out too well for them during the election, but for whatever reason, they think that it's a good idea to continue to do that, right? Even 3 to 4 months into his presidency, in which clearly President Trump is not Hitler, but hey, it doesn't stop them from rolling with this talking point. So, without further ado, I want to react to this CNN panel of leftists who's going.
That's the thing, just my opinion. Democrats are in their hole, and they, instead of climbing out, they're going to chew their way out, as in go deeper down until they come out the other end.
Going to tell us why it's okay to continue to call President Trump Hitler. Why is this totally fine?
Donald Trump is a Bill Maher, the Auschwitz guy. He had Nick Fuentes and Kanye West over for Thanksgiving dinner. He's not exactly Nazi averse.
My grandfather of Jewish children. Come on, Trump just done more for Jewish people. I'm just He's fantastic. You know what? Actually, speak loudly words. He may have said some stupid stuff in the past. What he's been doing, cracking down on Harvard with their anti-Semitic policies.
You know it's not
Alan Dershowitz, who was
Alan Dershowitz is on ticket, my friend. If Donald Trump wants to root out anti-Semitism, he can go over to the Nazi chat room that Twitter has turned into. The fact is, Hitler did a lot of awful things that were unrelated to the Shoah, and it is not unfair or inappropriate to compare the policies of this government to the...
Why did this guy call Twitter a Nazi chat room? Y'all comment in the comment section below. Let me know what that's all about.
The policies of the right. No, it's not. Hitler banned abortion. Hitler persecuted LGBTQ. Hitler hated
Yeah, so basically, a Republican, if you're a Republican, then basically it's okay to say that they're Hitler. Right? That's the argument that this guy is saying. Well, Hitler hated labor unions. Hitler persecuted LGBTQ. Right. Now, again, is the GOP, are they persecuting LGBT?
Y'all think LGBTQ in Germany was you think the boys was saying we girls now, so we get to go in girls' bathrooms and play in girls' sports? Was that happening back in the day? I bet you it wasn't.
LGBTQ, no, right? Enforcing common sense when it comes to men versus women in sports is not persecuting LGBTQ. But again, notice the trick here, right? Any policy from Republicans that happen to align with something that Hitler believed, like, for example, when it comes to banning abortion, even though it's for completely different reasons why the modern-day Republican Party wants to ban abortion or wants to restrict abortion versus why Hitler wanted to do it. Oh, well, they must be the same, right? It must be the exact same. But everybody knows that's silly, right? It's just as silly as me saying that, Democrats are like Hitler because Hitler believed in gun control for his enemies, right? For his political enemies, he has strict gun control, right? Democrats believe in gun control, so they must be the same, right? Democrats are like Nazis. Again, how silly would that sound? It would sound really silly. But for whatever reason, liberals don't see the silliness in their logic when it comes to continuously trying to compare Republicans and Trump supporters to Nazi, Hitler and all this stuff. It doesn't make sense. Furthermore, what also doesn't make sense is that President Trump clearly is very pro-Israel. So to call him anti-Semitic is just a reach. Like, it's a huge reach. How can a man be anti-Semitic, but yet he probably is the most pro-Israel president that we've had in a long time, to be honest with you, right? And he gets a lot of criticism from the anti-Semitic left, right? And also from the right as well, too, for his relationship with Israel. Israel, right? So it's just funny how that works. Like, the dude clearly is very pro-Israel, so I'm not entirely sure how he can be so anti-Semitic. If he's an anti-Semite, he's the worst anti-Semite that I've ever seen, right? I've never seen a worse anti-Semite than President Trump. But again, the left, whose side of the aisle sympathizes with Hamas, right? A lot of these people out here stopping for Hamas, right? Those people, the people in that party want to accuse the other party of being anti-Semitic. It's just hilarious, right? It's absolutely hilarious. Maybe you should deal with the anti-Semitism in your own party first before you start pointing fingers, okay? Because again, look at the left, look at that side of the aisle. I mean, look what happened to Josh Shapiro. The dude who did that was a radicalized leftist. So I'm just saying, if you're really worried about so-called anti-Semitism, right, then you really need to look at the leftists. That's where a vast majority of it is coming from, to be honest with you.
Standing by Hitler goes in his own little
Arthur, just give me 1 second, because I want to take what you're saying, because this is an important point, I think, that gets lost in all of the yelling, to be frank. There was a lot of Hitler talk by Democrats in the campaign. Trump is going to, right? But I think what they're saying now, Democrats, is a little bit different. Listen to Larry Tribe saying not what Trump has promised to do, but what Trump is doing or has done has historical parallels.
Nice little university out there. Be ashamed if something happened to it. That's what Hitler basically said, although it sounds different in the original German, when he said it to the University of Frankfurt and then took them over. That's what Orban has done in Hungary. That's what Erdogan has done in Turkey. It's a standard technique.
The comparisons to Hitler are a loser for the left. I mean, I agree, but I'm not saying well, again, you make it fair. The problem is policies. I get it. It's just universities. I would have met my great-grandparents. Like, come on. It's very hard to draw that line to say, well, I'm really just talking about some of the things that authoritarianism has had. There are authoritarians. Great, let's go into Mussolini. Again, you won't get as much trouble as you it's a third rail for a reason. Yes, because Hitler was uniquely bad. He was uniquely bad. And really, I think we should take seriously what Bacch's point is about the true, pure evil of mass murder that Hitler engaged in, which you can talk about a lot of other authoritarians and authoritarian behavior, and it's not that still, right? So I guess her question is fair. Why not just compare him to other authoritarians?
I agree. It doesn't hit as hard as Hitler. That's why. And because Democrats don't have real arguments. Okay, their policy.
The Democrat Party, what they're going to provide you is a big bucket of fear about the other party. And they're going to comfort you with spending government's money to claim they're going to help the poor. And any kind of way that they could word that and sell it to you in a bag of goods, that's what they're going to do.
Suck. They did a terrible job for the last 4 years. The only thing that they can do is to point the finger at Trump and say, well, he's Hitler. Even though clearly he's not. So this is what you do when you don't have good arguments, is that you just exaggerate, right? And you just say, well, my opponent is Hitler. Therefore, this is why I'm better than him, right? And remember, during the campaign, Kamala Harris, her pitch was, well, why do I have to be better than Hitler, right? I shouldn't have to be better than Hitler in order for you guys to elect me, right? Which, again, tells you everything you need to know about how weak the Democrats and their argument was for why is it they should be running the country, right? They literally thought that, hey, you know what, this guy is Hitler. They told everybody that he's Hitler, and because he's Hitler, you should vote for me, right? And I shouldn't have to be better than him. I should have to prove I'm better than him because he's Hitler. Democrats are just, they're not the smartest, right, group of people at this point, to be honest with you.
There's nothing that this administration has done in either term that compares to what Hitler did to the Jews in Europe. But nothing compares to what there are other
really crappy things Hitler did that are not unfair, but it doesn't mean that you can't say, for example, when Hitler was leading up to Czechoslovakia, right, and how he went about convincing.
That's why we compare Putin to Hitler.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, you can talk about historically specific things Hitler did that were comparable to other people. What you can't do is make broad comparisons. But that's what Larry David is doing. Larry David is saying, when you're sitting down with this guy, and he didn't say it's like sitting down with Hitler, but that was the point of the piece, right? Which was, in effect, it has the same impact. And that's where you get into trouble. I think you can draw a line and say there's specific historical things you can talk about. But when you make the big picture comparison, that's when you get into some real trouble.
All right. The only letters in the editor they get all together, they don't print.
I don't want not to defend the New York Times. I mean, they did write a whole explanation about why they did it. They said callbacks to history can be offensive and precise, or in terrible taste, which some people might argue this is, when you are leveraging genocidal dictators to make a point. But Larry's piece is not equating Trump with Hitler. It is about seeing someone for who they really are and not losing sight.
Not since the New York Times published an op-ed from Tom Cotton has there been this much controversy at the New York Times.
So I'll just say, I think
it's gaslighting to say that, well, he's not really saying that Trump is Hitler. No, that is what he's saying. Right. And he's straight up trying to go after Bill Maher for having dinner with President Trump.
Look, I'm going to leave it at that. Look, when you operate in a building full of gaslighting, it don't take much to strike a match and the whole thing come down like a house of cards on the Democrats. They got to change up their playbook. Hey, if you like the content I'm providing, please like and subscribe.